This screencast is designed to go through the formative assessment and give you a little bit more guidance on what we're expecting using the assessment tool itself as a framework for that. So what's the task? So you're going to undertake a simulated consultation, just as we've been doing. You're going to meet and greet your service user. You're going to ask for permission to undertake the typical day. You're going to complete your typical day and end the consultation. Then you are going to be patient for one of your peers, and you are going to provide constructive feedback for them. So we're looking for that way of giving feedback. What went well for the dietitian? What did the service user experience? How did they feel about it? And then that chronological feedback of exactly, to the best of your ability, what the dietitian said, and the skills that you observed. Afterwards, I strongly recommend that you complete the analysis of that typical day and think about where you need to learn more, what foods came up that you didn't have any information on, what else you might have asked, those kinds of things. So go through it and have a look at it, see how your estimation might be, and then also reflect on that process of what you've actually done within the task. You're not going to be given a mark and you're not going to be told whether you would have passed or failed, but you are going to be provided with detailed written feedback from the assessors on what you did well and areas for development. And this is going to be uploaded onto Blackboard by Friday, the 22nd of December. So on the actual assessment tool, we've got 9 sections. Greetings and introductions, outlining what to expect from the consultation. So that's an explanation of what you're going to do and why. The actual typical day, that open question, asking them to go through that, the ending of the interview, and overall, were you demonstrating attending behaviour? An overall view on your questions, whether they were appropriate, using the right types of questions at the right time. Did you maintain that person-centered approach, your observer role, and the assessment of energy and protein intake? So I'm just going to go through those a little bit more. So section 1, and the bit in blue is just to give you an idea of what's on the actual form. So we're not going to score it. So there's not going to be any scores for the formative, but there will be comments. So specific comments about what you did, maybe some guidance on what you could do, some specific comments, and you might find that your assessor has put a tick by, yes, did you greet the service user? They may have ticked it. Was there any small talk? Ticked it, or crossed if there wasn't anything. So you're going to get that kind of level of feedback, plus an overall view on whether it was, what was good and areas for development. So under section 1 here, you can see these are what we're specifically looking for, that you greet them, the small talk, check the preferred name, everything we've been doing over the last rest of the module, checking the service user details to check you've got the right person, introducing yourself and your role or your status, attending to the service user's needs. Are they comfortable where they're sitting? Is the temperature okay? It's all of those things, warm and welcoming. So this is exactly what you have been doing since day 1 of the module. You might be saying, I've had a letter from the GP, so you are going to have a GP letter for this. So, we've had a letter from the GP, but what about your perspective on things? What's it like from your point of view? You are expected to point out that the notes that you take, if you get permission for taking notes, it's confidential. It might only be shared back with the referrer. You're going to offer the time available, and check that you are on the same page. What's the service user's knowledge and understanding of what they're there for, and consent? So again, all things that we have been doing. Section 3 is a typical day, and By the time we get to the formative assessment, you will have had a couple of opportunities to practice that. So taking into account what you've learned in the morning and then adding that to your afternoon. So you're going to link the typical day to your consent. You're asking for permission for it. And you're going to use your range of skills. So this is your ability to ask appropriate questions, minimal encourages, verbal following, so that the service user knows you're with them and you're actually paying attention. And you're going to get that information about where food fits in, what kind of foods and drinks are people having in a typical day. The questions, are you asking appropriate questions? And that's about making sure it relates to the medical condition. So if it's celiac disease, it doesn't matter if they have sugar in the tea or coffee or not, or what type of milk they have, but it does matter if they're having sandwiches or sauces that might have flour in, other things. So try and keep it focused. So you're only asking questions you need the answers to. Section 4 is your ending. So you will say that, thank you for your time. This information has been really helpful. I'm going to maybe hand over to your supervisor or take this information back to the dietitian. It doesn't matter what you do, as long as it's an appropriate way to say to the service user, we have now finished, and what's going to happen next. So should they expect to hear back from you, for example? Demonstrating attending behaviour during the consultation. So this is put all the way through, an overview of all the way through. Have you been using your active listening skills? What's your non-verbal communication been like? Have you, been giving good eye contact posture? Have you been smiling appropriately? Minimal encourages, have you been using those as you've been going through appropriately? Have you used verbal following? And we may give you some examples of words we've heard with your verbal following. And with questions, it's going to be that overview. Have the questions been appropriate? Have you used open questions? When you're going to use a whole load of closed questions, so for example, you might have gone through the whole day and then say, would it be appropriate if I asked you some more specific questions to get some clarity? Yes. So the service user knows the questions are coming. So highly appropriate to use closed questions for clarifying things that are important. And again, keep it focused on what's important to the particular scenario. And again, this is an overview of you developing and maintaining this person-centered approach. Are you picking up on what people have said? Are you giving them opportunity to talk? Are you being non-judgmental? Is your pace and your tone, and I would also say your words, professional? Are you conveying that professional skill in the way that you speak? So it's all about developing, maintaining a person-centered approach. And then the observer role. So this is that detail. Are you going through? Are you giving them feedback to the person who's played the dietitian? Are you giving them detailed feedback? I really like this question you used, and explain what the question was. Not just, oh yes, you did this, you did this, you did this, but what did you say that was so good? Or what did they say that perhaps wasn't quite so good and might have been misinterpreted? So I'm expecting some level of detail there in how you give feedback to your peers. With the assessment of energy and proteins, we know this is an area that you are developing in. The key thing is that you've identified key sources of energy and protein. So we're not going to be looking at this specifically, as in not taking in your assessment, but are you asking questions that demonstrate that you're thinking about energy and protein? So in this particular situation, if you're looking at total energy, are you looking at sugar, for example? Are you looking at a type of milk, type of spread used on bread, those kinds of things. Are you giving, checking out all of the things that people might use for protein? Snacks. It could be, someone is a great peanut snacker, then, that's going to be a higher energy of protein and intake of protein. So we need to be thinking through those things that are relevant to that. And our key feedback points is just going to be our overview of what you did well and what areas you need to continue to develop. And it's highly likely that everybody is going to need to develop their ability to get the correct information from a typical day and to estimate that energy and protein. So you'd expect that. But we're going to be focusing on have you asked the right questions to get that information as appropriate for this particular scenario? That's what we're going to be looking at. So we're not going to take in your assessment at this point. So you'll not get direct feedback on the precise detail of that, but you will get feedback on the content of your consultation and the quality of the information you have obtained in hopefully a person-centered way.